Paul, it's great to have you on the program once again, and I got to tell you, we miss you on MLB Network. We know you got all the great success going there in South Florida, but we miss seeing you on TV all the time.
I appreciate that. Good to talk with you again. I miss a lot of the people that were there and the product that I was a small part of there, and they're still thriving, doing great stuff. But for me, it was time to spread my wings and fly. And fortunately, I've landed with a big league team with an awesome job. So I'm happy for it. It's worked out well for everybody.
Yeah, if you're going to leave the Northeast, South Florida is not a bad place to go.
Not a bad place. We were talking earlier. Now it's like when it gets into the 70s, I'm bundled up. I'm wearing thermal socks and all kinds of stuff. I'm a different person now. Heated blankets when it's 68 degrees. I'm soft.
Yeah, people ask me all the time about, because I've been all through Florida, and I just tell them, you know what, everything they say about South Beach, it's true. It's as advertised. It's like the Vegas of the East Coast. You're going to have a good time.
Well, no comment on that. But I am about an hour north of the ballpark, so I try to steer clear of anything that could get me into any sort of trouble down there.
So tell us about the Miami Marlins. How are they going to be this year? Obviously a trade that happened. You're bringing in Arise, get a little more contact on. They had a trouble score and runs. What are you projecting for this season down for the Fish?
The one word answer that I will use is better. Then the long answer beyond that would be, as you said, more contact. They did that bringing in Luis Arise. They did that bringing in Gene Segura, who's going to be playing third base for this club right now. This past week, guys that'll probably make the roster when it's all said and done, and Jose Iglesias and Yuli Gurriel. So, as it stands right now, the Marlins on their potentially on their opening day roster will have the reigning Cy Young Award winner in Sandy Alcantara, the Major League Baseball stolen base leader in John Birdie, and the last two batting champions in the American League, in Luis Arise and Yuli Gurriel. So hopefully they're a little bit better. You don't think that that I'm breaking any news by saying this. They did not build this roster to compete in terms of home runs with the likes of the Mets or the Braves or the Dodgers or the Yankees or any teams like that. They built this team a little bit differently to add more contact, to get rid of some swing and miss, and hopefully, they lost 40 some odd one-run games last year. So. The glass half full line that I did use and will continue to use is that they were one hit away from winning a lot more games last year. So hopefully that one hit comes in a few different fashions. And the other thing, and I'm sure we'll get into it in greater depth, but I've said it on our air. I've said it when talking to our GM Kim Ang directly. The best acquisitions that she could have made this offseason were three players. You bring in three big bats and you'll have a different team in 2023. A healthy Avi Garcia, a healthy Jorge Soler, and a healthy Jazz Chisholm Jr. And those three guys were either unhealthy or unproductive last year. So if those guys are healthy and out on the field every day or 150 games, then this roster is a lot better, and hopefully the offense is much more productive.
Well, if there is one player that you mentioned there that's a sneaky good pickup that A's fans will know as good as anybody, Gurriel is a player. And if he is right and has a good year, we've been facing him for years. When that happened, wasn't it odd? That's like, how's this guy unsigned for so long? I think that is a sneaky good pickup for the Marlins.
Yeah, and listen, that's where they have to operate right now, whether it be financially or building a roster or whatever it is. That's kind of how they have to do it. They have to be right in the Rule 5 draft, where other teams have roster crunches and other teams have to risk losing talented players that they just can't keep on the 40-man roster, and the Marlins have to be ready to scoop that up. And that's one way to do it, whether it's creative trades. We've seen a few of these like one-for-one kind of deals. I mentioned Jazz. He was a one-for-one flip with Zach Gallen. Obviously the Marlins and the A's got together this offseason a month or so ago, a one-for-one AJ Puck and JJ Bleday. So, I think that's where they have to be a little bit creative. You know, and is the defense that the Marlins, he may not be an everyday guy for them. We'll see how it all shakes out, but he's, you know, should help defensively, and Gurriel, both defensively with a Gold Glove, and also offensively, whether it be contact, average, power, whatever it is. You know, just add another reliable bat to this lineup.
You mentioned JJ Bleday, who comes over to us, and last Saturday when I was back at spring training, he hits a ball off the batter's eye at our Ho-Ho-Cam Park, which normally is a home run in most ballparks, but we have this huge batter's eye. So he's off and running, and he's booking.
Yeah.
An inside the park home run, slides in, and I went, you know what? What we just saw is why he was a first-round pick. You saw power, you see size, you see speed. You got to see him last year. Tell us what we're getting in JJ Bleday, and what kind of player long-term do you think he can be?
I think that there's certainly, you know, we were just talking about the batting title. I think that despite what his short stint in the big leagues may have shown, I think that if he gets with, and not a knock on any of the Marlins folks, but, you know, looking ahead for you guys, if you guys are able to tap into what's in there, and figure out how to communicate with this guy. I mean, there's some skill there. You know, he wasn't some 18th round pick out of some small college or anything like that, where it's like, well, maybe he's going to be good. Like, he was a key player on a College World Series champ that went top 5. Like, that's the pedigree of a really good player. And we, our front office had ties to Vanderbilt, so they knew him inside and out. It wasn't really much of a flyer that they took on this kid. They knew him. So yeah, I mean, I think that he's going to be that type, and depending on who's around him, and you know, I think he'll settle in, and just being able to, you know, last year was get a little taste of the big leagues, and now hopefully for you guys, it's a little bit more of an everyday role. You know, our two organizations are probably in a generally similar spot here, where you can give a chance to a younger guy and give him big league reps against big league pitching and tough World Series contenders night in and night out, and see what a guy's made of. And hopefully from there, a guy can become a star, become a really good player, and have some growing pains, which he certainly had with the Marlins. But he's a great kid, a really good head on his shoulders, and I know him a little bit from his time with the Marlins and whatnot. So I wish him the best.
Yeah, we've had him on already. He's a good kid, and everything you said right there is spot on. You know, what we always say about Oakland, it's the land of opportunity, and it's been like that for years. But when you do have a situation when you have a lot of guys getting a shot, that veteran presence, we keep talking about what Stephen Vogt meant to this team last year to so many different players. These players are still talking about how Stephen really helped train guys and prepare guys, that veteran presence. So whether you bring in Segura, you bring in Cueto, you're going to have a lot of young players, but how important it is to have some of those veteran guys to teach them the way.
It absolutely is huge. You're right. I mean, it's a really important thing to have, because a lot of it, you've had a million conversations with players and coaches over the years, right? Routine is something that is a word that cannot be overused, right? It's important for everybody. It's important for broadcasters. I lean on my routine every day to get ready for games. So I know that it's important for players too. And a lot of times, you know, you think of the younger player now, right? The 22-year-old kid or the 20-year-old kid, right? They come from a lot of them come from that showcase generation, right? When I was back at MLB Network, I did the Under Armour game in Chicago every year, and that was one of those games where kids from all over the country would fly into Chicago for 2 days, play a game, and hope that they got drafted in the first round. And then they'd disappear, and then they'd meet up again at the Perfect Game thing in San Diego, and then they'd disappear. Then they got area code games or all the different things around the country. And they kind of, for better, for worse, it's just the structure of it, they would play for themselves. There wasn't a lot of small ball. Everybody's trying to hit the ball over the wall and do everything to impress the scouts. But at the big league level, it's a different game. So once you know, you get that veteran, Segura, Arise, Cueto, Gurriel, Iglesias, whoever those guys are. And the Marlins have had a bunch, Curtis Granderson, over these past few years. I show them the ropes of, hey, here's how you need to get ready every single day. And sometimes it's more work because the game may not come as easy as it did in the Under Armour games and the Perfect games in years past. And sometimes it's less work. Actually, I remember in Oakland last year, Marlins were in Oakland for 3 days, and Pablo Lopez was pitching. And I had a chance to talk to Pablo, who came over or went to the Twins in exchange for a rise. Great guy. He is big on routine, and he's big on every bullpen session I have to throw X number of pitches, and every other day I have to do X number of workout. And it got to a point where he was further along in the season and healthier than he had ever been. More pitches, more innings, more games and starts and all that stuff, which also meant more side work than he had ever had before. How do you stay healthy? Sometimes it's doing less. And all those things will come from pitching coaches, who the Marlins have. Mel Stottlemyre Jr., one of the best, if not the best in all of baseball, in my opinion. And a Cueto type, those guys who've been through the ringer of a long season, of an October tacked onto a 6-month marathon. So all those little things that you may not see in the box score, that stuff all adds up thanks to veteran leadership.
When Chisholm went up to MLB Network and was sporting all those suits, did you help him with the tailor? Did you help him with the style and the color? Those things were electric.
What is in your coffee cup that you think he and I share a tailor? Come on. No, he's got his people, and I have my wife. Like that's how I dress. And trust me, she didn't dress me today. She wouldn't want to see me in this garbage. But no, no,
his suit game was strong.
Of course it was. I mean, I do see it on the planes, in and out of the ballparks on the road and whatnot. So yeah, I think the word that the kids use is drip. He's got a lot of drip and swag and all kinds of stuff like that. So he's as cool as they come. He's a cool cat. That's what the older generation would say. But he's a cool dude. He's awesome, and I hope center field works out for him because it'll be great for everybody.
Well, he's got special talent. There's no question about that. And what was it like? It was a fracture in his back. I'm assuming everything's all right, correct?
Yeah, he's good to go now. Yeah, it was a stress fracture and a little bit of a low back thing. It wasn't a little bit of an anything, I guess, but it was a back thing that kept him out basically from the end of June through the remainder of the season. So and now it's a different position. He came up as a shortstop in the Diamondbacks organization, came over to the Marlins as potentially their shortstop of the future. They had Miguel Rojas already, so they moved Jazz to the second. Now Jazz, because center field has been a bit of a problem for him the last handful of seasons, he stepped up and said, hey, I'll try center. You guys brought in a rise. He can play second base. I'll go try center field. He's always idolized Ken Griffey Jr., who was pretty good from what I hear out there. So, a pretty good bar to set. So, hopefully center field, there's a little less wear and tear, more ground to cover, of course, but a little less wear and tear on him to be diving in the hole and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it's something that he can stay on the field and we can watch him. The kid is an immense talent, power, speed, flair, the whole thing. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's funny watching the WBC, and there's Ken, and there's Andy Pettit there in the dugout as coaches. It's kind of funny to watch. So last year we bet we can't bet being baseball employees, so we have food bets. We bet dinners. So last year my producer Cody bet me nobody would have 200 innings. I'm like, are you insane? I got a guy in South Florida, I'm guaranteed. So it's a steak dinner bet. I'm like, I got a guy named Sandy Alcantara will easily get me 200 innings. I just need it. Sandy got me that. It was one of the easiest bets I've ever made in my life. You talk about special. I mean, Sandy has got everything you want. He is, I mean, you talk best in baseball. He is such a great talent. And I love the fact, give me the ball. I want to throw as much as possible. He is not a five and dive guy. It's not in his heart. It's not in his DNA. And, he's the type of guy at 4:00 out here out west when he's going to pitch. We go to MLB.com and put it on the computer. and watch them as we're preparing for our games.
Yeah, I'll let you be the judge. I don't know if I was right or way wrong, because I think I can make a case for either one. But I was asked a bold prediction going into last year, and I said, all right, here's my bold prediction. You got Jacob deGrom, you got Max Scherzer, you got all these different pitchers across the National League. I said, my bold prediction is that Sandy Alcantara will finish third in the Cy Young voting. Now, I don't know if that was a right or a wrong, because, yeah, he was top 3, but he was also unanimous Cy Young. So I don't know. I'd like to think that I was that I'll chalk it up to, I grade myself as an 85 on that one. But yeah, no, he's special. He's I will always go back to a different audience here. So I guess I could tell the story again. When he was pitching, he came up for the first time in 2019. And we all knew that he was certainly going to be special, or had the makings to be special. And every 5th day that he'd pitch, he'd pitch okay, and then he'd pitch maybe not so okay, and then not so okay. And every 5th day, Don Mattingly was asked after the game, like, all right, what'd you see out of Sandy today, and how can he be better? And he'd always say he just needs to learn that he can get outs in the strike zone, that his stuff is good enough where he can challenge even the best hitters and beat them. And every 5th day he'd go and he'd nibble and walk 4, and then he'd nibble and he'd miss over the middle in a home run. And then you'd see flashes here and there. But there was one day in August in New York against the Mets, and the first 2-3 innings were blah, kind of the same thing that we had seen over the course of his previous, whatever it was, 10 starts. And he comes out in the 3rd or the 4th inning, and he was a different guy. It was just boom, 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 strike, 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 boom, 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 boom. It was just like, you know what? The heck with it. Here it is. Hit it. You can't. I'm winning. I'm dominating you. And really from then, I think, I don't have the number in front of me. I think from that point on, the rest of the season, so what was it, 8, 9 starts, he had like a 2.7 ERA. And then, 2020 was what it was, but he was still good. 2021, he gets to 200 innings and 200 strikeouts. And then 2022, he wins the Cy Young. So we've seen him grow. We've seen him mature to not just be a really good pitcher on this staff, but we've seen him become what in everyone's definition of an ace is. He's that on this staff. We've seen him become one of the best in the National League, and maybe one of the best in all of baseball, the best in the National League and the best in all of baseball. And, I'm fortunate to watch him every 5th day. And, I went up to him after it was announced that he was not going to make another start. I think he could have started. It would have been his day to pitch in game 162. But his prior start was going to be his last. And they made the announcement, hey, he's done for the year. Okay, great. And I went up to him in the clubhouse in Milwaukee, and I said, Sandy, I'll tell you what, I know that you don't care about this, nor should you, but you need to understand how thankful I am for allowing me selfishly to ride your coattails this year, because last year I truly got it. I got what it meant and what it means to players who play behind the greats, or even with the greats, Trout, Ohtani, whoever it is. When that player, that great player, is playing at his highest level and the highest level, it elevates everyone around him. And it did the same thing for me as a broadcaster, because not that I would take other games off necessarily, but I knew I had to be especially on when Sandy pitched, because you never knew how great he was going to be that night. And our job is to tell the story of the game, the story of the player, the story of the season. And his story last season was amazing. And I knew that I had to be on it every single game. And he had so many special nights where he just dominated the competition. And I felt a little bit more locked in. And it was just one of those things where I said, thanks for allowing me on this ride. I said, because every great thing you did this year, my call was attached to it. And thank you very much. And he appreciated that. Not that, again, that he needs to care what he's doing for me selfishly, but it was that kind of a year where it was, we're a part of something really special watching what he's doing. First Cy Young in franchise history.
Well said. Yeah, he is such a special talent, and hope just, great health for him. And, I think about former A's, Jesus Luzardo, talk about winning in the strike zone. When he figures that out, he's a special talent.
Yeah.
We hope that AJ Puck can stay healthy and figure it out. I mean, he stayed healthy last year. Hopefully he can do it this year. But thank you so much for your time. We truly appreciate it. When we look on weather.com and we see it's like 67 or 68 there in South Florida, we'll be praying for you.
I'll have a hat on. I got to keep my head warm. I got to keep the heat in, So yes, thank you very much. Get a hot tea and stay warm.
And I know I have to say it, we haven't talked to her this morning, but I know Amelia Schimmel misses you also.
Oh, the feeling is mutual. She is the best. You guys have a good one over there. And when the Marlins came to town last year, as we always go to San Francisco, but especially those last few years where she's with you guys, I always make it a point to meet with her and talk with her. She's great. You guys have a good one there.
Well, we miss you on MLB Network, but we're happy for you in South Florida. You be well. Well, let's talk later in the season.
Appreciate it. See you guys.